Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to another version of Soldiers. Yep, deck's back. It's kind of weird how this worked. So some of you may remember the soldier deck that I used to win Asperia, I called the least original deck, because everyone was playing soldiers. So when I made another soldier deck for this season, considering they just got nerfed, I mean, basic Alexa got nerfed and Mutant got nerfed, I thought, let's call it the most original deck. I mean, no one's playing it right now. So I redesigned the deck, took it on ladder, and I got to rank 3 at my height. Now, currently I'm at rank 4, but I think I could definitely get to rank 1 with this, as it says 74 wins, 31 losses, but in reality, it's about 20 wins with soldiers and about 5 losses or less. So the win rate's been quite spectacular, so I am quite happy with the deck as it is currently. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, because honestly, decks over time change due to meta choices, so when it comes to that kind of thing, you just have to take it as it comes. So what changed with soldiers? Now, the two main things changed, as I mentioned, were Bloodseeking Mutant got changed so it only works from the front row now, so you can't leave it on the back row and get counters anymore. And Basic Alexa, this is a big one, got changed so that you can only activate the ability if you have another creature on the board. This was a colossal nerf for soldiers and for OD control, and the reason for it was because you actually have to play 1-drops now, which is weird. Basically, you didn't have to play 1-drops with Basic Alexa, you just had a 1-drop that was useful later in the game for a sack target to draw, or it worked with Mouse Tactician, or any of the buffs. It worked with Carryfield Captain to kill assassins on turn 2 going second. It was just incredible. And it means you didn't have to play any of the really bad 1-drops that when you top deck them, you're not very happy about it. However, as it turns out, soldiers have a pretty good 1-drop that you can play in Steelhost Spearman. It's not the best 1-drop ever, but it's pretty good. So, honestly, fitting in 4 just to make sure you get that 1-drop wasn't the worst thing that I've ever done with the deck, and it does mean that the nerf didn't hit it as hard as I think a lot of people were expecting. When the patch came out, I did say on stream that I thought the deck would still be viable, and it seems to be. I think it's tier 2 minimum, and it might still be tier 1. Now, on my scale, tier 1 is just the best deck, and tier 2 is like all the other good things, so it's somewhere in that margin. We'll have to see once the meta develops a little bit. I haven't done a meta recap in a while, but I think I'm going to start doing those again once release happens, I think. Just get going in with those. So anyway, the basis of this deck is still the same. Get a whole bunch of extra soldiers out through your hero power, and things like Guards, Dwarf Musketeer, just high value soldier based cards, and you got a couple of big payoffs, mostly Master Tactician and Knight Recruiter, and Master Tactician's way more powerful than Knight Recruiter. And you just get massive amounts of damage on the board through the Order side, whereas the Dominion side lets you sustain your board by having Mutant that kills things, Mind Extortion that gets rid of removal, and Stronghold Metropolis to sack to draw. So the changes I've had in this deck, first of all, we'll go over the cards that haven't changed, and we'll just get the ones that haven't changed in number or just anything. Same number. We've got 4 Guards. So Guards, one of the best spells in the game. You get 2 Militia end of turn, or it's a combat trick. Or it can be pseudo swift, because you put it end of turn, they don't have any blockers, then you play Master Tactician attack for 4. So Guards is just always good, it's never dead, it's one of the best cards in the deck, because you leave 2 mana up for pacify, and if they don't attack, play Guards end of turn, so you don't waste any mana whatsoever. It's also good at hiding things, because it means you stop the clock, then you play Guards, and then your opponent can't use the information that there was 5 seconds at the end of his turn when you could play something to say that you have Pacify, because you played Guards, so it hides information in that regard as well. The other numbers that haven't changed are Carryfield Captain, basically one of the best creatures in the game, period. It's so powerful, Militia. It did get nerfed a little bit in the fact that you can't put it on a Militia on turn 2 anymore, going second, because you can't play that Militia, but it's still very, very powerful and should not be underestimated. It's just that strong. The buff, the fact that you can retreat it out of combat is really underused, but very, very powerful. The buff lets you get rid of gets rid of other soldiers in the mirror, lets you get rid of elves, library guards, lets you get your militia up to 2/2, which means they can deal with things like lizards, which is very relevant. So the CFC is still very powerful. Elite Vanguard, vanilla 3-3 soldier, surprisingly hard to deal with a 3-3, and the body's always been why you play this. Vanilla 3-3, surprisingly powerful, and you can play it on turn 2 if you have the spark. The rest of the numbers haven't changed. I've got 2 Ray, still not playing Helm because green's everywhere, and I can't risk playing Helm. But Ray does pretty much the same thing. It's a bit worse than Helm in a lot of situations, but it costs 1 less, and you can't negate it with a unicorn. So Ray is mostly being used on opposing mutants whenever they're being played, or Dust Titan or Haldiri, etc. Master Tactician, I mentioned this earlier, it's the payoff for all of your swarming. Basically, it lets you get colossal amounts of damage out from just a few soldiers. In fact, 2 Master Tacticians turns out 3-3 militia and just gets absurd. And it's one of those really hard to kill threats. It lets you beat reds into a pulp once you start getting them later in the game, because you can put Soldiers Memorial tokens on them and then they can't burn them, and it's just insane. And I think the last card in the deck that hasn't changed number at all is Mind Extort, still playing 3. So, someone asked me about this on stream, which was why Mind Extort is powerful, because if you miss with it, you're down a card and a mana. But the thing is about Mind Extort that it lets you pick apart your opponent's hand in a way that no other card does. Even Temptress of Deceit doesn't, because they can, stop it from hitting them unless you're playing basic Neva. And even then, they might have some instant removal. So, Mind Extort allows you to get rid of Fire Blast as the main one, but it also allows you to see whether your opponent has Tornado Outbreak that you need to play around, or if they only have one, you just take it out of their hand. Or you can play it along with a Bloodseeking Mutant to stop them from fireballing it, or helming it. It's very, very good, and one of the most brutal targets you can get this on is actually Cataclysm. Getting rid of Cataclysm will often win you the game on the spot. So, besides that, unless I made a mistake, the numbers of every other card have been changed, because fitting in 4 1-drops and also accounting for the metagame change is difficult. Now, I'll go over the shrines later, but as for the creatures and spells, so, first things first, we're down to 3 Pacify from 4. The main reason for this is I needed to cut a card from somewhere, and there isn't that much Phoenix right now. There is a lot of Haldiri Rider, but usually you only have to deal with 1, maybe 2 Haldiri Riders in the whole game, and Pacify will probably deal with that. Whereas against Reds, you need 1 for early game, you need 1 against Phoenixes, you just need them everywhere. Whereas against Green, it's not as bad, so you can afford to play 3. 4 Musketeer. Now, 4 Musketeer is an interesting one, because it's always been a bit of an interesting soldier to play with that 1 HP, but honestly, at the moment, with the amount of elves running around, the 1 HP is not even a factor, because the ranged gets rid of whatever's attacking it. And being able to buff it up to 3 speed, 3 attack with ranged will kill pretty much any elf with Cavalry Field Captain. And also blanks sharpshooters. They can play their sharpshooter, but then they just trade a 3-drop for a 2-drop, so it's not even worth it. It's pretty bizarre how powerful it is currently. Even with a bit of red running around, it's not as bad. You can just cycle them out for +1/+1 counters, and you can play them early game. They usually trade with a Fia, which is a 2-drop for a 2-drop, so that's a fine trade. So most of the time, they've been pretty good. A bit awkward against Corruption, but the rest of the deck is good against Corruption anyway, so it's not really a problem. 2 Sunblessed Priests. Now, Sunblessed Priests replaced Heavy Infantry from my tournament list. And honestly, it was very, very good as a 3 or 4 of, I can't remember, in the version before the patch. But that's because it was just, you needed those 2-drops because you had a guaranteed 1-drop. Whereas now, I've cut it down to 10 things you play on turn 2, 10 on turn 3, and then the 4 in the 1-drop. But you still need 2 Sunblessed Priests over Heavy Infantry. The main reason for this is because there's a lot of green, red, and black decks running around, and they all have something in common, which is they try and race you. The black decks in general have been trying to drain and then win through that regard, but if you play a Sunblessed Priest and then put a +1/+1 counter on it, it's a 3/3. That's hard to deal with, and every time it hits them, it negates a Succubus trigger. So the Sunblessed Priest is incredible in that regard. On top of that, it works quite well against Elves. Again, you play it late game, make it into a 3/3, then they have to use a trick to kill it for free, or it trades with a Haldiri and gains you 3 life, again helping you with racing, and same against red, it helps you with racing in ways that no other card really does. The life bound is really quite powerful in some situations. Now, the last card that's been changed in numbers from the early game is Knight Recruiter, down to 2. Main reason for this is Knight Recruiter is absolutely terrible against elves. Absolutely horrific. The main reason for that is because they just kill all of your militia. The militia are not safe with Knight Recruiter. In fact, they often end up on the back row until you get a Master Tactician down. Because if you put them on the back row, you can sacrifice them for later. But with Knight Recruiter, you have to have them on the front row. And yeah, it's not very good. Basically, the only elf Knight Recruiter can interact with is Sharpshooter, and they'll often be using their other elves to kill it anyway. So it's just not very good. And yeah, on top of that, if it gets bounced, sure, you get a militia out of it, but then they kill the militia for free anyway. So you actually don't get any value out of Knight Recruiter in the elves matchup, and I thought it warranted being cut down to 2. Now, to supplement the early game with the switch of 1-drops, I have 4 Steelhost Spearmen. Now, this was 3, however, again, elves is everywhere currently, so having a 3-speed 1-1 is surprisingly powerful, because you can play it with CFC, and you get a 4-speed 2-2, which will kill Elf Scout. You can also play it with a counter late game, and it will start blocking elves of any kind, and if you have a Master Tactician on the board and put a counter on Spearman, it actually blocks Haldiri Rider favorably, because it has ranged. It's also very good against red, where you play it against red on turn 1. They play a goblin, they don't attack, you don't attack, you play something else, and then they play something else and like, oh, Fire Blast now, and then you just use the Spearman to get a favorable attack in. So you don't get screwed over by Fire Blast. It also means you have more counters in the late game, which is actually quite relevant against red. So the Spearman in general has been very, very good, and he's been so good that it does give you a bit of a doubt as to why he wasn't played at all before, but yeah, the free 1-drop was just too much. I mean, he's still not good late game, and that's the main downside of 1-drops in general. But he is pretty much the best 1-drop we could hope for in this particular style of deck, and being a soldier helps a lot. So, the last creature in the deck is the Bloodseeking Mutant. This is down from 4 to 3, mostly because it's still powerful, still deals with elves, still deals with corruption, things like that. It's still very, very good. However, you can't rely on it as much because you can't leave it on the back row, and if you can't leave it on the back row, it's easier to snipe, and if it's easier to snipe, you can't use it as your main win condition half the time. So, Bloodseeking Mutant is still necessary, but he's only a 3-of because he's no longer a must-have 2-of in every single game card. You only need the 1 in a lot of matchups, and he pulls his weight, but he's not the incredibly overpowered powerhouse like he used to be. Now, the last 2 cards in the deck are the Shrines. We're still playing 2 Soldiers Memorial for the buffing and 2 Stronghold Metropolis. A lot of people have asked me why I don't play more. Main reason for this is I only go to 2 levels, so if I have more than 2, I'm pretty likely to draw 2 of the same skill shrine every game. And if I do that, unless I convert one into a level, yeah, I have to Divine Offering it away, and I might risk a Divine Offering. 4 skill shrines is enough for this, because you only really need both of them in the mid to long game, and normally you get them. Sometimes you don't, but it makes up for it in the fact that sometimes you get them in shorter games when you also could use them. So they're very, very useful skill shrines, and it's one of the strengths of this color combination with soldiers is you get to run Soldier Memorial and Metropolis to their full extent. So anyway, that's the full deck tech. So we're going to take this on to some games. I'm going to see if I can get a ranked game, and if I can't in the first 20 seconds, then it's not going to instant queue, so we'll just move on to friendlies. So anyway, the last 2 trial runs I did actually ended up 10 wins each, which I'm quite pleased with. I'm going to be alternating between trial run videos and constructed-based videos and like top. Well, I mean, I finished with the top 10s, but like other sort of miscellaneous stuff. So, something which I'm thinking of doing in the future, besides the meta report thing, I'm reviving when the game comes out, because then there'll be more of a diverse meta, and then we can actually comment. In fact, I may do a meta report after the Asperia Invitational at the end of December. We'll have to see for that. But something I'm thinking of doing is just making a series where I try absolutely crazy deck ideas revolving around one card, or I just try and make one card that isn't particularly good, or is just sort of in the middle zone work, a bit like I did with Force Field. So if I had started the series a while ago, it's a bit like what, if anyone watches Kriparian's Hearthstone videos, he does a series which is like How Good Is a card, where he just looks at a card, tries to put it in a deck, sees if it works, and sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. Something like that, but more revolving around the actual archetype itself than one specific card. So I'm going to probably try demons at some point. I need to make a demon deck. Maybe Grand Reunion. That should be an interesting one. But there's Burning Rage is another one. There's a lot of cards that are very strange, but can offer some interesting deck building ideas. So yeah, if you have any ideas for that, by the way, put it in the comments and I'll be looking at. So just put in either a strategy or a card. So like strategy would be something like Mill, whereas a card would be like Grand Reunion or something like that. So just put something in the description, I'll have a look at it and see if I want to. Now the aim is to play 2 games today. This is not a good hand because I can't go Hero Power turn 1 anymore. This is much better. Now we're against Basic Despina. This could just be a starter deck. It could be something bizarre if it isn't a starter deck. I do not need to Divine Offering on turn 1 because I still have a Shrine and I'm going to draw with that Shrine. We're going to try and go for a Night Recruiter on turn 3, but we'll have to see what he does. And it also depends if I top deck a Carryfield Captain or Elite Vanguard, because those are usually just better. Alright, so we're not playing a starter deck. This is a Wisdom Dominion deck. Alright, so the Steel Host, that's good. So we'll go with, well, first of all, we have to divine something. So I'm going to need the Ray at some point. And I think the Recruiter's quite good. We're actually going to get rid of this Mutant. And get Dominion Shrine. Play the Spearman, make a token, and pass. Because if I attack, then he just blocks and it's a trade. Whereas if I don't attack and he attacks, I can just block it for free. So what we'll do next turn is play the Night Recruiter. And then the turn after we can go Tactician and just attack with everything. And that should be the curve we're aiming for in this particular game. Now, there are a couple things that could screw me over, like Library Guards. That could be a mess. We'll have to see what he does. Interesting, so it's like an Implants deck. I'm kind of inclined just to go for a Mind Extort now, but, yeah. Now, let's go for a Night Recruiter and pass. Do I attack with this? Actually, I don't really care if he trades with either. So I can just get free damage in. If he trades with the Squirrel, it means there's something I don't have to deal with if he plays Library Guards or something like that. He is on a very awkward curve right now. He used the Spark, so he can't go Library Guards before I get down to Tactician, which would screw me over. Whereas the way this game has gone, I do get a fairly good setup. Assassin, that could be annoying. I do have Tactician, so I can buff this up and lock it down. And then I can take this trade for free. He can't attack, because they both have ranged. Alright, so let's go for Dominion Shrine. Play Tactician, tie this up, as I said. And I think we'll just try and get this free attack in here. Leave this back. Yeah. So by leaving this back, we protect my Tactician from Assassin if he switches the blocks. Whereas if he blocks like this, he loses it. Yes, I lose 2 damage, but I think it's worth it. It's worth it to kind of make his block less appealing than it would normally be. I also lose a soldier here, which means that I've got the token. Now I am a bit worried about Helm, so I've got Mind Extort before the Helm turn, which is also quite good. So this hand in general is looking to be fairly powerful. I'm still curious as to what kind of deck he's playing. I think it's some sort of Implants deck. Blue purple Dominion. It's just Wisdom Dominion Implants has been something that is quite common over time. Although now it's been green Implants. Nature Dominion. Just random note. The color thing really just tripped me up because I call Rage red most of the time. I call Nature green most of the time. I call Wisdom blue. And then I have like Order and Dominion. And Corruption I sometimes call black, depending on the context. But then Order and Dominion I just call by their actual name. It's weird. I think it's because I played Magic in the past, so I'm used to the main colors. But Corruption is not really, like, it's more of a gray color, so it just messes with me a bit. Alright, so in Mind Extort, take away the Cataclysm. And we're just going to buff up here and get in as much damage as possible. I was thinking about keeping this for library guards, but to be honest, I think we can just buff this up anyway, since we have, is it two soldiers in grave? Yeah. We can buff up the CFC anyway and get in through there. Now, he's at 7. I don't think there's anything he can play. Actually, yeah, he's got the hero power, so maybe he can. If he assassinates this and this, maybe, that would reduce this to 2. And that would be enough. Flash freeze would also work. He has to get another blocker, so he can play library guards from hand. I know that. Ooh, the mutant. Interesting. Not sure about this one, because I can just tie it up with whatever he weakens. So he really has to weaken... yeah, he has to weaken one of the big creatures. That was the correct play there. I do, however, have the Ray of Righteousness, and I think that's lethal. Yeah, it is. So, no matter what he blocks, that's lethal. Alright, so that was some sort of Wisdom Dominion deck. Didn't really see much of the deck. It was probably using Word of Power or some other ramp. For some reason, I just compelled to wait for this to run through. So yeah, this deck in general is very, very powerful against control decks. If I talk a bit about the matchups. So, Elves is about 60% in Order's favor. Not by much, though. It's like 60% is not that good, because that's also accounting for like the difference in player skill. So, in reality, I don't know what the actual matchup is, because I haven't played against that many high-caliber Elf players. Whereas, like, I played against, I think, Senelion was playing some Elves, and also Clone was playing some Elves, and that's about it. Then, there's the Corruption deck running around. Now, that is favored. That's definitely favored. I've got that from experience, and also from people that play the Corruption deck. Apparently, Soldiers is quite bad. It's one of the reasons why the Corruption Burn deck became popular, was because Soldiers disappeared, and the Corruption Burn deck with Succubus and Word of Pain was actually quite powerful. I may cover it at some point. Besides that, Red is actually surprisingly favored, so that's 3 favored matchups, and there's Wisdom Dominion, which is favored. So, honestly, this deck seems to be pretty good against everything right now. Soldiers has always been one of those things that, apart from Red, which it traditionally struggled with a lot, although to be honest, I think if you play the matchup correctly, you should be fine. So apart from Red, the deck has traditionally been fairly good against everything. And I haven't really come across that many bad matchups. Like, one-turn heal can be a problem, but that depends on how fast my opening is. If my opener is really quick, then one-turn heal isn't an issue. Whereas if it's a bit slow, it can be a problem. And now we get to play against a Red deck. I'm going to keep this. It's got 1-drop, Mind Extort, and 2-drop, so that's good. So I think what I'm probably going to do is, let's see, on turn 1, I mean, turn 1 I'm obviously going for the Spearman. That much is a given. On turn 2, I may actually go for Mind Extort Hero Power with the Spark. Interesting. He's playing with Burke. Now, the problem is that Burke's hero power is going to cause some issues, so I think I just have to get on the board as fast as possible. So I'm going to spark out a rally here, since he can't Fire Blast me anyway, and he can't hero power. This hero power is going to cause some issues, although it will fuel my shrines a bit, and I do have the Stronghold Metropolis. There's the double red. Summon Totem could happen here. If this is Shamans, then it's not... Like, I don't think it's a bad matchup by any means, but it could be problematic. Alright, so we can take the Fire Blast and the Word of Fire. So that just rips apart his hand. Now, he's going to double chop my my 2 actual creatures. Now, that will put him down to 12, and then I can start drawing from my stuff. But I have to make use of these, like now, because he has Disciple of Zash. Oh, he's just using Disciple of Zash. Interesting. Ping this off. Alright, so he's going for a bit of a longer game. So we get the Stronghold Metropolis, make a token, sack it immediately, see if there's a better play, and there is. Basically, that's if there's Cabaret Field Captain or something. We're just going to go for a Vanguard immediately. Now, he could ping and then axe off these two, leave me with just a 1-1, although that would put him down to 7. This is actually the weakness of Burke that really causes him to not see as much play, is that he takes so much damage that his ability isn't actually very useful. And it's the thing where Advanced Zash clears your own Shaman, so you can't really run him. So most Shaman decks are not mono red, because the heroes just don't work with the idea of playing Shamans. You can use Advanced Zash to maybe stall, but most of these Shaman decks ended up splashing Dominion, because then you can use Dominion with basic Despina for some serious combo potential. Oh. What do we do here? So we can attack, play Mutant. That would be good, or I could just set up some damage. Alright, now we're going to sack this. Should have done that pre-playing the Mutant, actually, that was a mistake. I'm sacking to play around Fire Blast. If he has Fireball, it kind of sucks, but next turn I can go guard, sack one of them. Make another token. And if this lives, I think we just win. Oh, Lightning Totem. Swiftness Totem. Ah, that's the Offering Yard Priest from earlier. That could cause a few issues. I need to get some damage in through that. I actually have to Ray that, I think. Yeah, I think I'm just going to Ray that. I have to. So, what we're going to do here is just Ray this. And I could either get a draw or I could set up some end of turn stuff. Now, let's get the draw. Let's get a draw from this militia. And then just keep going. Because I was thinking about doing some end of turn things, but that would require me to get Master Tactician to actually be useful. And even then, it's only 4, because I can only play 1. So, this game will go on for a bit. I am worried about a long game against a Shaman deck. That could actually have some bad connotations to it for me. Another Offering Yard Priest. Fortunately for me, there are a finite number of these things. There's only 4 in the deck. But they are going to be really hard to deal with. Yeah. I was a bit worried about this Shaman late game. Didn't quite finish him off in time. Alright, so this is where we have to play a bit smarter. Draw. Now, he does have the hero power coming up. So I think I just play the Mutant. Weaken this. I just have to play a long game right now. Force him to use the hero power, because otherwise he'll just attack it. I mean, the point is he might have a card in his hand he doesn't want to discard by accident. On the plus side, his hero power is pretty much shut off right now, because he can't afford to take that much damage. I think the only way I can win from here is probably by guards end of turn multiple times with Tactician. I think that's the only way I can actually do it. It's going to be difficult. We'll have to see how this game ends up. Well, if he's doing that, then it means he has another Shaman. I mean, never mind, he can just ping it. Yeah, of course he can. So I take 5 here. I do have to be worried about a third Offering Yard Priest. Phoenix. Oh, this is a problem. Shamans. It's been a while since I played against Shamans. To be fair, it's not the most common matchup in the universe. So, these are not particularly useful, simply because they get pinged. There's the Tactician. The problem is that I actually don't have second guards. If I'd kept the one from earlier, but then that was a turn I think I needed it. We're just gonna play double musketeer just to stall, I think, because I can't get the lethal with the guards next turn. I need to get lethal with it is the problem. So far I can only deal 4. How much damage is that? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? It's not enough yet. Granted that this set of attacks will probably kill me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can really draw. I do get 2 new cards, so I take some damage here. I do get 2 new cards. Oh, never mind. I don't think there's anything I can draw. I would have had to hold on to both guards to win this. I think that's the only way I could do it. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, he's leaving the Phoenix back. Not really sure why, though. There's nothing I can do with it. And I don't think there's anything I can draw from here. Let's see, so he ties that up. Gets him for 6. If he attacks in a really weird way, I can maybe get through with this. Okay, never mind. 4th Raki Tribe Mystic. Oh, jeez. Raki Tribe Mystic is amazing with shamans. And I think that's just game. Tie up, attack with everything. Oh, yeah, jeez. And now he just kills this. Yeah, it's the game. Shamans, not what I was expecting to play against, but anyway, yeah, I think the only way I could have won that game was actually by saving the guards, the second guards. Although to be honest, it's not really. I didn't expect the game to go that way. But that was the only way I could have done it. So I wouldn't exactly call that a misplay on my part, but it's sort of an unforeseen future. But anyway. Thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback or have any suggestions for future videos, put it in the comment section below. But as now, it's been Jotto, signing off.